I never thought I'd be the guy to find out my wife, Lisa, was cheating on me. We'd been married for 5 years, and honestly, I thought we had a decent life. Sure, there were fights here and there, typical stuff. She was bitchy, always quick to lie, but I figured that was just her way of keeping herself in control. I was busy with my deployment, so I guess I wasn't paying as much attention as I should have. When I left for the last tour, Lisa was already acting a little weird, more distant, avoiding my calls, lying about where she was going. I chalked it up to her being a bitchy manipulator, or maybe she was just stressed out. We'd argue about her lying, but she always had a reason, some excuse that sounded plausible. Anyway, I was gone for about 6 months. During that time, I stayed busy. I was in the middle of training exercises, trying to keep myself sane, but I'd catch myself obsessing about her, wondering what she was up to. I told myself she was probably just upset, missing me, or maybe she was talking to other guys. Women like her aren't exactly saints after all. Still, I trusted her. I believed she loved me despite her bitchy attitude and her constant little lies. But then something changed. Nothing concrete at first, just small things that started to bug me. First, I noticed her phone was more private than usual. She'd put a password on it which wasn't normal for her. She'd hide her screen when I'd walk into the room, and she'd get defensive if I tried to look. Then there was the fact that she was working late more often, coming up with excuses about her job or her friends. But the thing that raised my suspicion the most was her behavior when she thought I wasn't paying attention. She'd be overly flirty with her phone, giggling at messages I couldn't see, and she'd get defensive if I pressed her about it. One night, I was lying in bed, trying to sleep. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I saw a message pop up from someone named Mike. It was just a quick chat, but the words on the screen made my stomach turn. They were talking about meeting up later, and Lisa hadn't mentioned anything about seeing Mike. When I looked closer, I saw screenshots of hotel room receipts, something that didn't sit right. I wasn't sure what I was seeing at first, but my gut told me that Lisa was hiding something big. I kept the message open, heart pounding, trying to process what it meant. When she finally came home the next day, I couldn't hold back anymore. I decided I'd confront her that night. I thought I was ready, but honestly, I was. The truth was going to hit me like a ton of bricks, and I knew nothing would be the same after that. I remember her walking into the house that evening, acting like nothing had changed. She was bitchy as ever, snapping at me for no reason, trying to brush off my questions about her day. I didn't waste time. I threw the phone on the table and said, "Who is Mike? And why do you have hotel receipts from last week?" Her eyes widened for a split second, then she smirked that annoying, bitchy smirk of hers. "What are you talking about? You're paranoid. Maybe you're the one cheating during your deployments, huh?" The way she lied so effortlessly made my blood boil. I didn't buy her bullshit. I knew she was lying, but I wanted her to admit it. I needed her to own up to what she'd done. But instead, she kept denying, twisting everything around, calling me crazy. That's when I realized she had no intention of stopping, no matter what I said or did. This was just the beginning. I knew I had to decide what to do next, whether to trust her again or finally put an end to this mess. The betrayal cut deep, but it also made me see her for what she really was, a manipulative, lying bitch who'd been cheating on me with my best friend Ryan during my last deployment. That realization changed everything. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so naive. I was furious, devastated, and feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. Do you want me to keep going with the next part? That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was spinning in every direction: anger, betrayal, heartbreak. I kept replaying her lies, her smirk, the way she thought she could get away with everything. I kept thinking about Ryan, my supposed best friend. How could he do this? To me, to us, I trusted him. We had beers together, vented about girls, played golf on weekends. And now I found out he'd been sneaking around with Lisa behind my back, using my deployment as an excuse for their secret meetings. Honestly, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut so many times I wasn't sure I could breathe. I knew I had to act fast. I couldn't just sit around and stew in my anger. I needed proof, something concrete, before I did anything drastic. So that night I went through Lisa's phone when she was asleep. I was careful, trying not to wake her, but I just needed to see more. I scrolled through her messages, her calls, her photos, and what I saw made my blood run cold. There were dozens of messages between her and Ryan, mostly dirty talk, plans to meet up, explicit photos. They'd been doing this for months. I found detailed plans about their hotel rendezvous, including the dates she'd lied about being at work or with her friends. Every lie she told, every excuse was exposed in those messages. One message from Lisa to Ryan read, "Can't wait to see you tonight, it's been too long, hope he doesn't find out." That one hit me hard. That was my wife talking about me like I was some obstacle she needed to get around. I felt sick. The betrayal was so raw, so real, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I was furious but also broken. How could she do this? How could she lie to my face every day, then sneak around with my best friend? It was like my entire world was collapsing, and I was helpless to stop it. Next, I started to piece together the timeline. The hotel receipts matched their messages. The dates lined up perfectly. They'd been meeting in secret hotels right under my nose while I was deployed. I kept thinking about how she lied, how she manipulated me into thinking everything was okay. And Ryan, my best friend, how could he betray me like that? We'd been close for years, sharing everything. I never saw this coming. I thought he was loyal, that he'd have my back. Turns out he was just as much a part of the lie as Lisa was. I knew I couldn't confront her yet. I needed more. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of lies and deception. Every part of me wanted to scream, to yell at her, to destroy everything she loved. But I needed to stay calm, plan my next move. I was trying to think clearly when she finally woke up the next morning. She looked at me with her bitchy smirk, trying to act innocent as if I hadn't just caught her red-handed. I looked right at her and said, "You lied to me for months. I know about the hotel, the messages, Ryan. How long has this been going on?" Her face paled for a second, then she laughed, fake and forced. "Oh, come on, Jason, you're overreacting. It's just sex, a stupid mistake. It doesn't mean anything, you're being paranoid." That's when I saw her true colors. She was so good at lying, so dismissive, that I almost believed her for a second. But I knew better. My gut told me everything I needed to know. She was a bitchy, manipulative woman who thought she could get away with anything. And Ryan, my supposed best friend, he had no loyalty. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and betrayal. It was like I'd been punched in the chest every day, and I didn't know if I'd ever recover from this. I felt like I was drowning in the realization that I had trusted both of them blindly, and they'd both used me as a fool. I don't remember how I got through that day. Everything blurred together. The silent treatment, her bitchy remarks, my own tears. I kept wondering how I had missed all the signs. How had I been so blind? How could the woman I loved, who I'd fought for, do this to me? I wondered if she'd ever truly loved me, or if I was just some placeholder in her life. The betrayal was so deep that I couldn't see a way out, but I knew I needed to think clearly if I was going to do something about it. I had to decide whether I'd forgive her, or if I was done. That night, I sat alone in the dark, feeling numb. All I could think about was how everything had changed in a single moment. My wife, my best friend, the woman I trusted with everything, turned out to be nothing more than a manipulative liar. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I just stared at the ceiling, trying to process the chaos inside me. I knew I'd have to confront her again soon, but I wasn't sure I was ready for what lay ahead. The question kept pounding in my head. How do I even start to rebuild after this? Or is it even possible? All I knew was that I wasn't going to let this slide. I was going to make her pay for what she did. Would you like me to continue with the next part? The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding, my stomach was clenched tight, and my chest hurt from the weight of everything I'd uncovered. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine, not anymore. I had enough evidence, enough pain to make a move. But I also knew I needed a plan, something that would hit her where it hurt, something she wouldn't expect. The thought of her bitchy smirk, her lies, and Ryan's betrayal haunted me all day, but I forced myself to stay calm on the outside. Inside, I was boiling. I decided I'd have to confront her again, but this time I wanted to be in control. No more yelling, no more accusations without proof. I sat her down that evening, just her and me in the living room. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, Lisa, I know about the hotel, the messages, Ryan, I know everything. And I'm done pretending I didn't see it. You can lie all you want, but I have the proof. Her bitchy attitude didn't change. She just sat there, smirking, trying to act like she was the victim. Oh, Jason, you're overreacting. It's just sex. It doesn't mean anything. You're always accusing me of stuff. Maybe you're the one cheating during your deployments. That was her go-to move: deny, deflect, and call me paranoid. But this time I wasn't falling for it. I pulled out my phone, showed her the messages, the receipts, the photos. Her face froze for a second, then she started to get defensive. Well, maybe I did it because you're never around. You're always gone, always busy. I needed someone who actually paid attention to me. Ryan's just a friend, Jason. You're acting like a jealous old man, she spat out, trying to brush it off. But I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. I'd seen too much. I realized her words were just more lies to keep herself in control, those little manipulations she always used to get her way. I told her, you don't get to call me jealous when I've caught you screwing my best friend behind my back. That's not just sex, Lisa. That's betrayal. That's a slap in the face. You don't get to spin this into some "I was lonely" story. I trusted you and you threw that trust in the trash. Her bitchy smirk finally faltered for a second, but then she snapped back. You're crazy, Jason. You're always accusing me of stuff. Maybe I need to find someone who actually cares about me. That's when I knew I was done. I couldn't keep pretending. Her words didn't cut deep, even if she kept trying to play the victim. I felt the anger boiling over, but I also felt a strange, cold sadness settle in. How had I gone from a guy who thought he had it all, marriage, friendship, stability, to someone who was just used and betrayed? I looked right at her and said, if you think I'm just going to forgive this, you're out of your mind. I don't know what you want from me anymore, but I'm not going to be part of this sick game. I'm leaving. Her eyes widened and her bitchy attitude turned into pure rage. You can't leave me. After everything, you're just going to walk out. You're a selfish bastard, Jason. You're never around anyway. You don't care about me, so why should I care about you? She yelled, her voice cracking. But I knew it was just her way of trying to regain control. I didn't care. I'd already made up my mind. I stood up, feeling a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. I told her, pack your shit. I want you out of this house tonight. I can't do this anymore. As she stormed off, yelling more bullshit, I sat there in silence. My mind was racing. Was I doing the right thing? Was I throwing away everything we'd built? But then I remembered the lies, the messages, the hotel receipts. I remembered the feeling of betrayal, the sting of Ryan's betrayal, and I knew I couldn't stay. I had to get out before I lost myself completely. That night I packed her bags, and as she yelled at me from the doorway, I just looked at her and said, "Don't come back. You're done." And so am I. I watched her walk out, her bitchy face full of rage, knowing that I'd been blindsided, but also knowing I'd finally taken control. I didn't sleep that night either. I just sat in the dark, feeling numb and relieved at the same time. I didn't know what the future held, but one thing was clear. My world had shattered and I'd never trust either of them again. Would you like me to continue with the next part? After she left, I felt like I was in a different world. The house was too quiet, too empty. It was like the air had been sucked out of the room. I kept replaying everything: the lies, the betrayal, her smirk, Ryan's stupid face. For a while, I wondered if I'd made a huge mistake, if I should have tried to fix things. But then I remembered the messages, the hotel receipts, the way she lied without remorse. I knew I couldn't go back, not after what I'd found out. I spent the next few days trying to clear my head. I didn't sleep well, kept waking up in cold sweats, and I couldn't stop thinking about how I'd been played. That's when I realized I needed to do something more than just move out and forget. I wanted her to feel what I was feeling: abandoned, betrayed, humiliated. Honestly, I wanted her to suffer the way she'd made me suffer. That's when I started planning my revenge. Not a violent one, but something calculated, something that would hit her hard and leave her questioning everything she thought she knew about herself. First, I started digging into her phone and social media accounts. I wanted to find out if there was anything else I didn't see. Turns out, she was more of a slut than I'd ever imagined. She had old conversations with other guys, flirtatious texts still saved in her inbox. She'd been lying about her whereabouts well before I left for deployment. She was reckless, careless. That made me even angrier. I also learned she'd been seeing other men besides Ryan, some guy named Mark, some guy from her work. She was a serial liar and I'd been stupid enough to trust her. I decided I'd leak some of her messages online. Nothing too crazy, just enough to make her realize her reputation was at stake. I knew it would hurt her, but she deserved it. She'd always played the victim, but I was about to turn the tables. I found an anonymous way to post some unflattering screenshots of her flirting with other men, her lying about who she was with, her sneaking around behind my back. I kept the posts low-key, but I could tell her friends and family would eventually see them. I wanted her to feel exposed, vulnerable, that maybe, just maybe, she'd realize what she'd lost. In the meantime, I also contacted Ryan. I couldn't let him get away with it either. I sent him a message, something cold and direct. "You're not my friend. You used me, lied to me, and stole my wife's loyalty. Don't bother trying to contact me again." I knew that would hurt him, but for once I didn't care about his excuses. I wanted him to feel the same pain I was feeling, betrayal from someone I thought was my brother. The truth was, Ryan had always been a bit of a snake, but I never thought he'd betray me like this. The aftermath was brutal. Lisa's reputation took a hit. Some friends who blindly supported her started questioning her motives. The messages I leaked spread quickly online, and I received a lot of sympathy from others who'd been betrayed in similar ways. It gave me a weird sense of closure, knowing I'd taken control of the situation, even if it hurt like hell. I didn't want her to think she could destroy my life without consequences. I wanted her to see what it felt like to be exposed, vulnerable, and alone. And yet, even with all of that, I couldn't help feeling empty. A part of me wanted reconciliation, to fix what was broken, but I knew deep down that trust was gone. She lied so much, hurt me so deeply, that I couldn't look her in the eye again without feeling the sting of betrayal. The one thing I learned through all this: trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to fix. I was hurt, but I was also relieved. The truth had come out, and now I could start moving on. I knew I'd never forget what happened, but I'd learned to live with it. The most surprising thing was how quickly my friends and family turned against her. Some called her a bitch, others just shook their heads. My father told me I did the right thing, that some women aren't worth the pain. My brother said I deserved better, and that I was better off without her. Their support helped me realize I wasn't crazy for feeling hurt. She truly was a manipulative, lying bitch. I finally felt a little sense of peace, knowing I stood up for myself and didn't let her ruin me completely. Still, I wondered how I'd ever trust again or find someone who was genuine. But for now, I needed to focus on healing. As for Ryan, I blocked him from everything. I didn't want his sorry-ass excuses or apologies. I wanted to forget him just like I'd forget her. Sometimes, I think about reaching out and telling him off, but honestly, I don't see the point anymore. It's better to cut people like that out of your life completely. I learned that the hard way. You can't trust everyone, even those who seem close. Sometimes betrayal comes from the very people you trust the most, and the only way to protect yourself is to cut ties and move forward. Looking back, I realize this whole ordeal has changed me. I'm more cautious now, more guarded, but I also feel stronger. I went from being the guy who trusted blindly to someone who's learned the importance of boundaries and self-respect. If I could give anyone advice, especially guys in my situation, it would be this: trust is earned, not given blindly. And when it's broken, don't be afraid to walk away, no matter how much it hurts. Sometimes, the best revenge is just walking away and refusing to let someone strip away your dignity. It hurts, but it's necessary. And honestly, I think I'm finally starting to heal from all of this. Would you like me to continue with the next part? It's been a few months since I kicked her out and cut ties with Ryan. Honestly, I thought I'd be a complete wreck by now, but surprisingly, I'm starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel. The pain is still there, those feelings of betrayal, the anger that bubbles up sometimes, and the loneliness of realizing I trusted the wrong people. But I also know I'm better off without her. I've learned a lot about myself through this, like how strong I really am, and that I don't need somebody who's willing to throw everything away for a quick fuck or because she's too bitchy to admit her mistakes. I've been focusing on myself, getting into therapy, hitting the gym, reconnecting with friends I'd ignored during my deployment. Honestly, those conversations with friends have been a huge help. They tell me I'm doing the right thing, that I deserve someone who actually respects me. That's been a big eye-opener, realizing I don't have to settle for someone who's just going to lie and cheat. I've also started dating again, not seriously, but enough to remind myself I can still find happiness. It's strange, feeling vulnerable again, but I think it's necessary. One thing I've learned is that trust is fragile, and once it's shattered, rebuilding is almost impossible. But I also learned that I don't need someone like Lisa in my life to be happy. I've finally accepted that her betrayal wasn't a reflection of me, but a reflection of her own flaws. And Ryan, I do miss him at all. In fact, I feel a lot of relief that I cut him out. I don't want any part of that toxic friendship anymore. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever trust anyone fully again, but I've realized that trust isn't about blindly believing. It's about being cautious and selective and knowing your worth. I still get angry sometimes, especially when I see her post on social media, acting like she's the victim, or when I see Ryan out having fun living life without any consequences. But then I remind myself that I don't need their approval. I don't need them to validate me. I'm enough on my own. That's the biggest lesson I've taken from this. Being alone isn't the worst thing. Sometimes it's necessary to heal and grow. I've come to accept that I was blindsided, but I'm not defined by it. I'm rebuilding my life, and honestly, it feels good. Looking back, I know I'll carry some scars, but they're becoming less painful each day. I don't think I'll ever forget what she did or how betrayed I felt, but I've learned to forgive myself for trusting blindly. I've learned that standing up for myself, even when it's painful, is the only way to truly regain control. And I've learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away and refusing to let someone ruin your peace. If anyone going through something similar, I'll say this: don't let betrayal define you. Take your time to heal, cut out the toxic people, and focus on yourself. The right person will come along eventually, someone who truly respects you and values honesty. You don't need to settle for anything less. Trust me, it gets better. You just have to be brave enough to walk away from what's hurting you most. Would you like me to finish with the final part? Now, sitting here reflecting on everything that's happened, I realize how much I've learned about trust, betrayal, and myself. Losing Lisa and Ryan was like having my world flipped upside down, but it also forced me to confront some harsh truths I'd been avoiding. I used to believe that marriage was about loyalty and honesty, things that seemed so simple. But betrayal teaches you that those things are fragile, delicate, and can shatter in an instant if you're not careful. What's been hardest isn't just the betrayal itself, but how it made me question everything I thought I knew about the people closest to me. I trusted Lisa implicitly, and Ryan was supposed to be more than a friend. He was someone I considered family. That trust was stolen, and it left me feeling raw, vulnerable, and angry. But with time, I've come to see that it's better to face the truth than live in denial. Ignoring the betrayal would have only made it worse, and I'd carry that weight forever. Instead, I chose to confront it head-on, even if it hurt like hell. I've realized that forgiveness isn't about excusing what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. It's about acceptance, accepting that some people are just not worth your time and that you can't change who they are. I've forgiven Lisa for her mistakes, not because I think she deserves it, but because I refuse to carry that bitterness with me forever. Forgiveness has become a way to free myself, to let go of the anger that once consumed me. Same goes for Ryan. I don't need to hate him, I just need to move on. The biggest lesson I want to share is that life goes on, better, stronger, and wiser. You can't control other people's actions, but you can control how you respond to them. I've learned to put myself first, to set boundaries, and to recognize red flags before they blow up in my face. Trust is important, but it's earned, not given blindly. And if someone shows you they're not worthy of that trust, walking away is the best decision you can make. Finally, I want to say that I'm grateful for this whole experience, because it ultimately pushed me to become a better version of myself. I'm more cautious now, but I'm also more confident. I know my worth, and I refuse to let betrayal define me. Life is too short to waste on people who don't respect you. So, to anyone reading this who's going through something similar, hold your head high. Trust is precious, but so is your dignity. Protect it fiercely. The pain might be real now, but it will pass. And someday, you'll look back and realize that even the worst betrayals can teach you how to love yourself more and stand stronger than ever before.